The Arch Publications Podcast.
I'm Katy O'Regan, and you are listening to Arch Publications Podcast, where I get to chat to local businesses and find out what they've been up to. But also, I'm so interested in people, and I am very interested in this lady. I'd like to introduce you to Jo Nicholls, who is the owner of a Congleton-based funeral director called Shires. Oh, I have so many questions because funeral directors aren't necessarily people that you get to talk to unless you're in a situation where some tragedy or something's happened. So firstly, just give us a little bit of history about how you got into this career.
I lost my father when I was very young and then sort of carried on a few years and lost my mum very suddenly. And I remember sitting in the funeral directors having a chat, and I said, I want to do this job. I can do this job. Oh no, women, no, you'll never get into it. So yeah, that's a red rag to a bull. So I went to a local independent who I knew, and I did a little bit of work experience, and then I applied for a job with the one of the big nationals and got taken on. Worked my way up through the levels, did car washing, floor washing, anything, until I got to funeral director.
So when you say worked your way up, when you mentioned car washing, what are the levels? What sort of roles are there within a funeral directors that you have to get experience in? I just have no idea. It's like you are these places that are often sort of peaceful, and they are something that it's a place where everybody will go to, but they're a bit of a mystery. So what are the levels within the business?
Basically, I started at the bottom, so it was going out on a funeral and bearing, shouldering a coffin in, or just taking it in on a wheelbarrow. All sorts of jobs, really. Washing the funeral home down, mopping floors, making brews, you name it, we did it. You just slowly but surely you move on to the next one. One of the funeral directors went off on maternity leave, so I stood in for her, and then it just carried on.
So what was the stage where you decided to set up on your own then? How long had you been doing it for?
I'd been doing it about 15 years, I would say. And I just decided I could not sit in front of a family for any longer and charge them a small fortune for something that I knew didn't cost that much. And I wasn't allowed to spend the time with people. And the time is what people needed. You know, you weren't restricted to an hour, and you'd be getting phone calls. You need to get back to the office. You need to do this. You need to do that. It wasn't right. So, I just set the wheels in motion, so to speak.
And is it an expensive business to kind of get started?
Yes, it's not the cheapest. It's not the cheapest, but we've done it. It's not been easy. I mean, when I set up in Moody Street, that was a bit more basic, whereas moving to Worrell Street now, it's all singing, all dancing, and I'm proud to show people around, and
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I've come to chat with you, because you recently moved, like literally a month ago, to this new location, which is, obviously, you just mentioned Worrell Street, and it's a bigger location. You've got parking directly outside. What facilities have you got here then?
I've got I had them all before, but now I've got a mortuary that's large, it's airy, it's just fabulous. Big office. I've also got, and this is a bit one of a breaking news for you, we've also got a small chapel to hold services in.
Wow.
So if anybody's got a funeral that might be a direct cremation, but they feel they need to have a service, but the loved ones didn't want it, we can have it here. We can have probably between 20 and 30 at a push. But
Is that any denomination then?
Yeah. Whatever religion or denomination, whatever you want.
So you can bring in like your own religious person to hold the service?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how do you do that then? How does it have to be like blessed or something? I don't know, is it?
No, it will be blessed. We haven't done it yet, but there will be an open day, hopefully middle of December, if we can fit it in with Christmas shopping for everybody. But that's in the pipeline at the moment. So
I wonder, do you find it difficult because you are dealing with a time in people's lives when they are at their lowest very often? How do you cope with dealing with those people when you meet people?
I cope with the job satisfaction, I think, just knowing that you've helped them through what you said before. Nobody knows what goes on in funeral homes. Nobody wants to know, and with good reason, but we help people. we make the journey for their loved ones as easy as possible.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how far out their wishes might be, we try and accommodate them and fit them all in for them.
Do you think we should have a better view of funeral homes then and death in general? Because,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, nothing to be scared of. And you should be spending that time with your loved ones. And if you want to sit with them in the chapel of rest, you can spend all day. It's not supposed to be behind closed doors. It's just been made that way.
Yeah, my mum had an absolute fear of death, and she started going to a death cafe in Sandbach.
Yeah,
and they do have them. They have had them in Congleton, haven't they?
Yeah, they've been dotted around now. They're getting very popular.
And have you ever been to one?
I've been to a couple.
Have
yes.
you?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what happens at them?
You talk
about dying.
Whatever you want to. Yeah.
Right.
Death or the loss of a loved one. Yeah. Anything to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. So we shouldn't all be. It's kind of like the elephant in the room.
Totally.
You know,
yeah,
something
totally.
I am very frightened of it. Just I think it's because I like to be in control and knowing what's going to happen, and nobody knows what happens afterwards, do we?
No, we don't.
It's getting your head round what feels like an abyss is really scary to me, and I think that's probably why we always feel we feel traumatized when we lose people, is because we don't know where they've gone.
No, we don't. We'll never know that until we get there. But
have you had some really hard conversations with people about death then?
There's been a few difficult ones, yeah.
Yeah.
A few. You know, you can't tell them it's going to be all right. You don't know it's going to be all right, and it's that journey just to try and make them feel more comfortable with what's happening. We can only do what we can see on this side.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
And if we can make this side easier, then I'd like to say that's the job done, but it isn't, because you're always there for the family, the loved one afterwards.
I imagine that you get a phone call saying that, obviously, my partner, my husband, whoever has passed away. What happens then? What's the journey you take them on? Journey you take them on is basically you have a conversation with them briefly on the phone. We get together, we make sure we know exactly what they want. We go to wherever the loved one's passed away. If it's the hospital, obviously there's certain procedures there. You've got to sign a release note so we can fetch them into our care. If it's at their own home, we have to wait for a doctor to come to certify that the death has taken place before we can actually go in. So there is a fair bit. But it's quite urgent though, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, because it's not like sometimes you don't know, do you? Because talking about the doctor thing, that's like a sudden death, isn't it? If they haven't seen a doctor for a period of time. And so if it's been an expected death and they've passed away at home, the doctor still has to come. Can also be a district nurse or an ambulance paramedic can certify the death, which just basically means there's nothing suspicious. Then we can go and fetch them into our care. Right, okay. Yeah, if it's a sudden death, then obviously the coroner gets involved. Yeah, the police come, the coroner's involved, they go to the hospital, obviously. Coroner decides whether it's going to be a post-mortem or if it's just going to be a natural death. Yeah. What stage they go through. Same with a nursing home. Right. Sometimes you have unexpected deaths. Most of the time, it's expected. Yeah. If they've passed away in the hospital, there's procedures there you have to go through. You have to notify the hospital that it's going to be a cremation or a burial so that they can do the correct paperwork that side. So yeah, there's a few steps to go through. Is it expensive? It can be. It can be. It's as expensive as you want. Okay, so you hear a lot now about funeral plans. So how do they work then? Basically, you put your wishes down, the costing is worked out, and then you either pay for your funeral there and then, you can pay it in instalments. And that's something that you can do as well, is it? Yeah. Okay, so somebody now is thinking, well, I don't want my children to have to worry about, the cost of my funeral. They can come and see you, and they can get it all in place now. They put it all in place. It's not actually through me. I'm not a financial person. It's through a company called Open. Right. Very good. And your wishes are there, and then we carry out your funeral when the time comes. So if you wanted something, My mum has mentioned getting a bamboo casket because they're really good, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
Eco-friendly.
Okay, so you could get, if you wanted that, or I'd like to be buried in the local churchyard. I don't know how that's done, but maybe that I could come to you and say, let's get that sorted.
Yeah, you can. You've got to be within the parish. There's got to be room in the churchyard still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And is it expensive?
It varies. It totally varies from, whichever church. They're all a similar amount. If you go to the local cemetery, it's a bit more expensive.
And you have a range. Do you have like a range of caskets and things like that? Then you can show people.
Yes.
And what about headstones and things like that? Can you organise that for people?
I can certainly do that side of it as well.
Okay, and I have noticed recently, sort of in the last 10 years, there's some really beautiful places to be cremated, because I have really terrible memories of, because my family from Stockport, being in Stockport crematorium and being from very young, till very recently, like people who are really close to me, like my grandmas, going into Stockport crematorium, and the building, it felt like the walls were like sepia. It was just, and the casket being taken away behind the curtains. It actually traumatises me. It's not like that anymore, is it?
No, absolutely not. There are some absolutely stunningly beautiful crematoriums around and not far away from us, which is good.
I want to go and have a look round. We've talked about this before.
Yeah. Oh, you can do that.
Yeah, I'd love to go and have a look round. Isn't there a new one in Northwich? There's two new ones.
There's two relatively new ones in Northwich within about a mile of each other. You've got the Vale Royal and then you've got the Birches.
And are they the closest ones to here that are probably the nicest ones, or?
Yeah, obviously Macclesfield, the distances between them, it's minimal.
Right.
Really is minimal, so yeah.
Let's do it then.
It's a date.
A date looking around a crematorium. I've actually followed them on Instagram.
The Birches?
Yeah.
Yeah, and see all the flowers.
Yeah.
And the birds.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. So what have you got planned then? You talked about having an open day to show your new venue off on Worrell Street.
We've got horse-drawns coming. We've hopefully got motorcycles, sidecars, limousines.
Oh, wow.
Everything to have a bit of a mooch about and see what's on offer, really.
I have to ask you, and I don't know whether there is a conflict, like if you're a doctor, you sign a Hippocratic oath, but what's been the most eccentric funeral you've ever done or been involved in?
Possibly the lady wanted to stay at home. She didn't want to come, into my care, which was fine. And we did it, and she was buried on her own land. Beautiful, beautiful service in a teepee. But, and it wasn't her fault, the weather was absolutely atrocious. And we all had to wear wellies.
I bet she would have loved that.
Oh, she would have done. She would have been laughing.
Yeah.
She would have been absolutely, rolling on the ground, because it was, we were trying not to slip and...
Yeah. But what's great about that is she did her, and it's so beautiful that she said, right, I don't want everyone to wear black. I want to do me. Yeah. I lived this life and I want everyone to enjoy.
Absolutely. And strangely enough, we'd planned her funeral about 18 months before at a death cafe.
Wow.
Yeah. And I literally had her notes in front of me while we were sorting everything out. So it was amazing.
I need to sit down with you and go through what I want, because I've chosen the songs I want. And I try and
yeah, but mine change all the time.
No, mine don't. Honestly, literally, I want Al Green, Let's Stay Together, and Desiree, I'm Kissing You.
Oh wow, I've not heard of that one.
It's on Romeo and Juliet.
Okay. I like it.
It's a new one. So, have you got any? Is there just you at the moment? Have you got any more as the funeral director? Have you got plans to recruit other people?
Yeah, they're all obviously the husband helps.
Yeah,
bless him, the husband. He helps a lot.
And you have somebody employed to do the mortuary side then?
I have. When embalming is required, the embalmer comes in. We have a trade embalmer that comes and does it. It's something that I don't do.
And what about preparing people if they have an open casket? Is that something that you do?
I can do all that side of things, everything. Yeah, it's just when it comes to the actual embalming itself that somebody comes in to do that for me.
I have to just quickly ask, why would you be embalmed? What does that mean?
Embalming, it comes under all sorts of different names, but usually it is a preservative.
Okay.
And I mean, some people call it hygienic treatment, a name that I don't like.
Oh no, that sounds awful.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But yeah, it's just, certainly if they've been in an accident, then, the embalmers are very good at working magic, basically, to make them look as best as they can.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a treatment. If it's not needed, we don't do it.
Okay.
But if it's needed, then it's needed. It's not something we take lightly.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I have to say, I could talk to you all day about this, and I think it's because it's when someone says, when you go into the chippy and says do not touch hot.
You have to touch it.
You have to touch it, and I feel like I need to touch you because I'm so interested in the job. I always had this desire to want to do it because I really like to help people.
Yeah.
And,
definitely.
And you're definitely. I can sense you are. We know each other anyway, and I know that you're a kind person, and you can tell that you want to help people. So if people have got any questions about death or about how to plan their funeral or about the things that they can do, they just need to pick up the phone to you, don't they?
They do, or come in, have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. It's, we're always here.
Okay, that's
the door
great.
is open.
Well, it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Business Insights with Arch Publications, hosted by Katy O'Regan.